Welcome back, everybody. We're finishing up with a straw poll in this segment, and I'll tie it into to Donald Trump. And the way that I wanted to do that, Doc, because the question that I posed to you was, you were talking about how the candidates killed it because not a lot of them wanted to. But the defense for it was that it was the first winnowing process, and this Republican field, if I could say so, needs some winnowing. Now, a guy like Donald Trump getting in, who is polling at the bottom already, from what people have told, well, he was polling at the bottom before he declared, and we'll see what happens after he's out on the stump and whatever. But would that, for a candidate like him, would he have benefited or would it have hurt him? And is that because of the size of the field or because of what the straw poll actually is?
Well, I don't. A candidate like Trump is, a marginal candidate at best. He's said a ton of controversial things. All that's going to come back to haunt him. For Christ's sake, they went after Romney for saying 47%. Guy's led a fairly virtuous life. There's no real drama in his life or anything, and they attacked him for that anyway. So you take a guy like Trump, doesn't matter what you do, he's not going to make it. Is that not being at the straw poll, is that going to help him? Absolutely. Is it going to hurt him? No. He's already hurt himself enough. So he can bring in his millions of dollars, get his people out there, give money to the GOP, be a boost. Now, is it going to hurt somebody like Rick Perry and Jeb Bush? Oh, yeah. There is a definitive downside to a frontrunner going to this. Mm-hmm. What if, for whatever reason, a campaign like Michelle Bachmann got flush with cash over the summer, and she spent millions on the straw poll? Well, what she should have done, in hindsight, and everybody agrees with this, she should have spent it on her organization, not just the straw poll. So there's an upside and a downside. If you're at the bottom, you need to go. If you're at the top, there's not a reason for it. It's like if you're a heavyweight champ, right? And you have 4 contenders. It's not going to do you any good to step in the ring with 4 contenders. It's going to do you a lot of good to wait to see who the last contender is. Mm-hmm. And that's the truth of the matter. The straw poll is not predictive of anything. No matter who's won it, it's usually somebody different that wins the caucuses, and that's what counts. It's just nice to have everybody show up, spend the money, and have the GOP flush with cash, because that's what you need to win.
Well, I found it interesting that they're tying it directly into to the Iowa First the Nation, and I think that over the last couple of cycles on the Republican side, at least, although the Democrats, and we'll talk about that in a second, I think the Republican Party, and let's not be unfair here. The Iowa Democratic Party and the Iowa Republican Party work very closely together to maintain the First Nation status of the caucuses. Hand in hand, that is the main thing that they agree on. They agree on a lot of different kinds of stuff, but that is the one thing above all else that they agree on and work together very diligently to preserve for the state of Iowa. And I know the Democrats could have laughed up their sleeves about the debacle in 2012 a lot more, except that I think we all saw, holy cow, people have been coming at Iowa for First in the Nation for years. That's, one of the reasons that it keeps getting pushed earlier and earlier and earlier into the cycle is because states like South Carolina want to go jump the
New Hampshire one year.
New Hampshire as a primary state, it's a little bit different, but those early primaries, those early caucus states want to take over, saying that, well, these states, New Hampshire and Iowa, come on, they got too much influence. They get to be first, and they don't have any electoral votes. Who cares about them? Well, we're also to give me the defense for First the Nation and why maybe getting rid of the straw poll is a good idea in that regard.
Well,
if you agree with it, if you don't agree with it, then let me know.
I wanted him to keep it, but strictly for financial reasons. Mm-hmm. The problem is we had bad leadership that was critically bad. Matt Strawn got thrown under the bus for a mistake that a person did that had worked for him. So he resigned because he's got better things to do, like run his multi-million-dollar empire, right? And so then A.J. Spiker and this Bierstadt fellow came in, and it was truly awful leadership. And it became a joke. The straw poll became a joke because of their leadership. And the bottom line is it became associated with the Iowa GOP being not very well organized. Mm-hmm. And the governor, being the good politician he is, says we have to cut loose stuff that is going to damage our reputation no matter how much it costs. So I believe that. The other thing is, you know, we do have an oversized impact on the elections. I believe we should. Here's the reason why. Look at our show. Mm-hmm. How many states could we have a show like this that is accepted and widely accepted without people getting mad? We have people from all spectrums of life. Now, it does represent a white majority. I'm not arguing about that. Mm-hmm. But when you start talking about the cities that have, you know, a 38% minority rate, right? Because we're 62% white and 38% minority here in Des Moines. There's a lot of towns, a lot of the big towns have that racial makeup. Mm-hmm. So the bottom line is you really do get a feel for what is going to carry through for the rest of the campaign. Now, Mike Huckabee won one year, and I think it was John McCain that beat him finally at the end.
Yep.
But he gave McCain a heck of a run and didn't have to drop out. I mean, he was the last guy that dropped out of the race outside of McCain. So the Iowa position, people watch this very closely because we have such a wide range of issues, and we have such a disparate voting block. I mean, up until Joni Ernst won, we'd been, you know, a Republican and Democratic center, and our delegates were pretty much split. So I believe that's a good reason to have it.
So, well, I mean, so we're not, I don't think that we're a cross section for the country necessarily from a demographic. We're older, we're whiter, but from politics, it does seem that you get a little bit more of a mix, a little bit more of a spectra of political views in Iowa that maybe you don't in other parts of the country. Although, boy, it's what is difficult to reconcile is Iowa is becoming more and more an east-west state. The liberals are moving to the east more and more, and the conservatives are moving more and more to the west, more and more to the less populated areas of the state. And I kind of wonder if that's going to be. I don't have an opinion on it, but I do worry that kind of stratification is going to be have a negative effect going forward.
Yeah, and I would think so. The other thing is, I mean, let's be honest. We have a lot of people with money here in Iowa that don't necessarily live in town. And one of the things I tell my foreign friends when they come to visit, I said, one of the ways you can tell a multi-billionaire farmer from a regular farmer is if he has leather in his truck or not. And that's usually about the only thing that separates them. Because you can be sitting shoulder to shoulder, you know, like over at Miss Kitty's. I saw two corn seed billionaires sitting at Miss Kitty's the other night. And honest to goodness, I'm like, you know, I'm go up and shake hands, say, how you doing? They're hanging out with their poor farmer buddies. Mm-hmm. They all drive the same kind of truck. So that kind of I don't know what to say, laissez-faire about wealth and power here in Iowa is really kind of perceptive. I mean, if Hillary Clinton came in, you would love her because she represents your values. You liked her back then. You campaigned for her, right? But you wouldn't necessarily stop and go, oh, my God, I can't believe it's her. And you wouldn't immediately start fawning.
It is interesting how in Iowa, I think, well, especially in Des Moines, but all over the state, and I've lived in Northwest Iowa, I lived in Eastern Iowa, and now I've lived in Des Moines. So I've lived kind of all over, and I've been, my job takes me all over the state. I've talked to a lot of different kinds of people. And it is interesting how non-starstruck
that's a good word
folks can be. Now, will they get their rocking their mesh shirts and leather pants for Poison at the fair? Yes, they will. And will freak out about it? Yes, they will. Will they get their boots and their jeans for Eric Church or whoever, whoever's coming through Wells Fargo, Kenny Chesney? Yes, they will. They absolutely. We love it when big names come through Iowa, and we really relish it. But boy, you never really hear about or never really see the stories about, especially with politics and around election year, where are we going to run up and get breathless over a Chris Christie or a Mike O'Malley or a Hillary Clinton? Barack Obama was the closest thing to a rock star that came through Iowa, and even he had a little bit of a tough time getting going in the early days before he went and swept the thing in 2008. Absolutely.
Well, it's just like this. You know, I got a friend of mine that says, hey, there's Rick Perry at DQ. Well, did you stop in and talk to him? Nah, I'll see him later.
Yeah.
I mean, honest to goodness, those are the texts I get from my friends. You know, so yeah, that kind of we're not that.
And, I also kind of wonder, like, because you know every state has got its celebrities. You know, you've got your governors, you've got your for me, you've got your Supreme Court folks. Now the Supreme Court in Iowa has got a little bit more notoriety over the last few years, but certainly is kind of like the national Supreme Court. No, you wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't. I would wager you couldn't identify 3 of them on the street if you were to see. Like Chief Justice Katie and Apple and Hecht all walking on the street.
You're right. Yeah,
right? And that's as it is everywhere. I'm not making a distinction, but they're down. Our celebrities in Iowa, you know, like Governor Branstad, whatever you want to say to him, he's a down to earth guy.
Yep, we all are. Yeah.
The Chief Justice Supreme Court, same kind of thing. Brad Zahn, super friend of the show, down to earth guy.
Tom Shaw. Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. What are we going to talk about next segment?
Oh, I think we got to talk about Hillary. If we're going to do politics, we got to move on to Hillary, don't we?
All right, we're going to talk about Hillary when we get back. Basically, it's going to be how can she scream about a $15 minimum wage when she's getting all this free labor? That's going to be the issue. We'll be back right after this break.